Dr. Morey, Uncivilized Vitality. Here's a question that comes up a lot when we go to camp. Well, how am I going to sit? So we're going to teach you how to sit in the woods. Sit, S-I-T. The other video that's related, I'll show you that another time. So how to sit in the woods. First of all, just sit on the ground and sit down. You can sit in a deep kneeling position. You could sit in kind of a 90-90. You can sit down in a variety of positions. You can sit good old-fashioned Indian style, or crisscross applesauce, or whatever you're calling this, or a crossed open bent sit. You know, lots of ways to sit on the ground. You can kneel down. You can be in a deep sort of half kneeling position. You get into a squat while you're doing things. Lots of ways to sit on the ground. So typically people mean when they ask what I'm going to sit on is how do I keep my butt clean, or what if the ground is wet or cold in the winter. So let's start. I got a variety of things here. Maybe we show that. I'll give you what we can do. A stool is very popular, or camp chairs. That can range from something as simple as this old-fashioned camp stool that just folds out and I sit on it. We'll do a video where you can make stools. I have this other stool we use here. This is by BTR. This is an ultralight. You click these things out and you just twist it, right, till they open up, and then you got a little tripod stool, right, to sit on. Right, this is pretty handy because this thing weighs practically nothing, and I can sit up off the ground. This is what I'll use in the winter, or if we're doing like a lot of hiking, 10-15 mile type hikes a day, so because I get tired. So this is another good option. So stools, but you have to pack them, carry them in. Another thing that you'd have to pack or carry that's dedicated to sitting would be like a hunting pad. Wow, that's bright orange. Right, bright orange, camouflage on the other side, but it's made of a water impervious material on both sides. It's got these little beads. This is good for when you're out hunting. This gives me a little cushion to sit on, keep my butt dry, somewhat warm. It's also good for stadiums, stadium seating, I guess, but another, you have to carry it with you. And then we have some dedicated ground things. We call this a ground buddy. This is a water impervious cover, and then some wool on the other side. It's not very big. It's just enough for me to fit my tuchus and maybe my stockinged feet on while I sit by the fire in the winter cooking my meal or to dry out. We call this an uncivilized ground buddy. I made this by cutting a shower curtain, a heavy-duty shower curtain, and an old scrap wool blanket. Just sewed them together. Pretty handy, folds up, doesn't take up much room in my pack at all, gives me somewhere dry and relatively warm and clean to sit, but it's just an extra piece of gear. Now you could do double duty. This happens a lot. I sit on a garbage bag. If the ground is wet, I'll just break out my poncho, right? If it's not raining, I throw the poncho out big enough to have a seat, all the way out. If it's me and the wife sitting, we need a shared space. That keeps us free from the ground, and these USGI ponchos are pretty tough. They'll last quite a few years without worrying about ground abrasion or such. If you're worried about that, you could get something a little heavier duty. This is my Norsari. This is a kind of similar to my ground buddy. It's an impervious, water impervious, and really puncture resistant, almost puncture proof ripstop type of material on this side, and nice wool on this side. And this makes quite a big ground sheet. Enough space for me to sit maybe by the fire and take off my socks to dry my feet and stay off the wet ground. This also can be used as an extra layer of clothing, like a blanket or a shawl, maybe if it's raining or it's cold out. Right, so it has more than one use besides just something to sit on. So this one usually makes the cut, especially in the wet weather. I'll use it as an extra. Let me see if I can show them see if you can zoom in on the tag there. Got one of these for the wife for Christmas one year. We love them. I had to get myself one. That's probably good. Norsari. Norsari, the original Nordic sari. Super handy. Although I only use this in the winter. Otherwise it's not worth keeping with me. Always have a ground cloth. Just one of these space blankets with a reflective heavy duty Mylar on one side, right, and high color, high vis on the other side. You can unfold this just enough to have a space to sit your bottom on. You could open it up as wide or as small as you need. A lot of the times I'm using this if I haven't unpacked it for any other reason. If I'm hammock camping, I don't even take it out of the little pouch it came in. This is a pretty good brand. I'll have you zoom in on this too. This is, get it in there. See, even in its pouch, this is Arcturix Emergency Survival All-Purpose Blanket. Waterproof, windproof, reflects heat. I make this. I use this as a ground cover inside my ground shelters made out of tarps, or I'll put it under my hammock so I get somewhere to put my feet, or I'll just set this down like this. Now I've got a little pad to sit on while I'm at the fire or doing different things. A really brilliant thing, which I would have thought to bring out, is about this size, is those white flat Amazon mailers, the little packages that your books come in, little bubble wrap. Emily uses those all the time. I think that was her idea originally. She brings it, just have a place about that size where, you know, she can put her butt without getting it wet, and it weighs nothing, and they're basically free. To get a little higher off the ground, this gives me a little raise, so my butt's up a little bit off the floor if I don't have a stool. Sometimes I'll just roll up my patoo and I'll sit on this just as a little boost for my pelvis to get my butt up off the floor. But being as this is wool, it might get wet. You can also, if you haven't gone to bed yet, or you're just stopping for a quick break on the hiking trail, just use your sleeping pad. This is a Thermarest Z-Rest. Right? Just drop that out, sit on this. This is probably my usual go-to for a dry place to sit. And since it's closed cell foam, it doesn't soak up any water over the course of the day. Another tried and true method for me is either at camp, if the ground's slightly damp, or on the trail, is I'll just throw my backpack down. Face down, right, and sit on that. A lot of people worry about getting their backpack dirty, I guess, but that's what it's for. It's a piece of gear. Okay? So if you need to sit up off the ground for any reason, you can use a variety of these different things to get your butt up off the ground. You can just squat. You can bring a stool if you're going like level 3 luxury, or those camp chairs. I prefer to do double duty with things I've already got: sleeping pad, ground blanket, backpack, maybe my patoo or my sari. I've already got those things with me. I just use those or a garbage bag. Now the next thing I'd like to talk about in the subject of how to sit in the woods is after you've been sitting for a long time. Hiked 15 miles, you're very stiff, maybe you're not used to it. Joints are achy at the end of the day. I could kneel down like this and enjoy the fire. I find a little rise in the ground and set my butt, or make a little pile of dirt, you know, so I can sit up by the fire. But after you've sat for a while, with the ankles crossed or in a kneeling position, your ankles and knees and hips, low back can be tight from the day's hike or just from being outdoors. So use the opportunity of sitting around the fire, use that chance to kind of loosen yourself up. A couple good stretches to do is get into a kneeling position, tuck those feet back straight, maybe flex the feet under, you know, and kneel by the fire for a while, especially after being in, I'm not an advocate of hiking boots, but maybe we get a lot of people that go and wear boots, especially in the winter. Loosen those feet up by kneeling back, stretch those arches. Into a deep kneel, bring one foot forward and just kind of, I'll do this side and show you. Bring that foot forward and lean into that ankle, right? Just sort of sit here and move and stretch that leg out a little bit, okay? Then as you sit back down the kneeling, you can slide to the side, and I can get into a 90-90 or a side bent sit, and I can rotate to the other side, and I can lean and stretch into my hips this way, kind of loosen those bad boys up after hiking all day, especially when we hit a trail with a lot of hills or climbing. Use that time on the ground to loosen those hips up, stretch those ankles out. Maybe when you're squatting there or kneeling, you can post out on the hand and pull that thigh back, kind of loosen that quad up. So all sorts of ways you can get on the ground and combine your sitting time with loosening up from the trail overnight. I suggest just going in the kneeling, getting a 90-90, switch those hips back and forth, sit to the side for a little while, bring that leg in front, maybe stretch that out, put the other leg behind you, shift to the other side, maybe get into a semi or a half kneeling, right? move into a deep squat, right? A balanced deep knee bend up on the balls of your feet, and then you can kneel back down. You recline back on your hand, really get relaxed while you're by the fire. Lots of different ways to sit. If you're concerned about staying clean, well, you probably shouldn't be out in the first place. But if you're concerned about staying dry or off the cold ground, you're going to want some kind of barrier between you. Your pack works good, one of those Amazon bags, your patoo, or space blanket just in the tarp. So any of these pieces of equipment, especially if it can do double duty, great. If you're going out with us on a super luxury, maybe take a stool. You can build a stool out in the field. We'll do a video on that. Or you can take a folding stool with yourself. This lightweight one, my friend Jill showed us these things. This thing weighs, you have to look the stats up, but almost nothing. I mean, practically nothing. I was impressed with how little this weighed. And it just unfolds, you know, takes its, oops, pop that back in there. Just takes up very little space, very little weight. It's got this little cord, so when I take these things together, I can just wrap around. It's got a little hook right here, right? And then that just goes, it's got to weigh less than, I mean, just a few ounces. It doesn't weigh anything at all. So sometimes if I'm feeling luxurious or it's really rainy in the summer or the winter, I'll take a stool. But mostly I just sit right on the ground like we're designed to do. Uncivilized movement number 3, make friends with the floor. You should be spending an hour minimum a day on the ground anyway, so keep that in mind. So subscribe to the channel, make comments below what ways you like to sit. Check out my friend Katie Bowman for all her variety of ways that human beings sit on the ground. And use your camping time to practice that. Loosen your back and hips up by getting back on the floor. Derailed my train of thought. Like, subscribe, notifications, share the channel, all that. There you go.